You want to go? You want me
go,
to go?
you can
Okay.
start, yes.
Welcome, guys, to Shit That Matters. Ryan, it's your first time on this side of the camera.
So Ryan is our videographer,
yeah,
producer.
Well, producer, yeah. So do you want to introduce yourselves and then
Sure.
how you met, how you know each other?
I'm free will unless you tell me what to do.
Okay, go ahead. You can start then.
I'm Carlo. I'm a retired wedding professional. I've been in the business since, 95-ish on some level. And now I just got done saying this to Bud that I'm done doing money work. I'm starting to do happy work. So now I have a 5-day-a-week art show on the internet.
Awesome. Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, and my name's Ryan. I'm primarily a wedding videographer, but I also do podcast producing and other video projects for local businesses, whether it's commercials or just, little social media clips.
Cool. So I think we kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about the wedding business in Syracuse, the CNY, and then kind of get into that.
So you guys do video only, right? Video, audio. You go to, somebody hires you, you go to a wedding, and you start from the minute they're putting the dress on, or you only at the reception, you're at the wedding? Is it different for each wedding? How is
That's
it?
more of your question.
So me and Carl got me into the wedding industry, and when I first started,
You're welcome. I'm sorry.
Yes. Hey, it's kept me going.
Yeah.
But no, I started off being trained as a roadie because he was a wedding DJ. And
Oh, wow, okay.
Then I enjoyed it, and he started training me to be an actual DJ in my own right, so that he could send me off. And then in the middle of that happening, I was like trained up, but I wasn't like fully confident to go in and actually like be introducing people and doing the MC portion of it. A bride asked like, "Oh, do you know anyone?" Asked Carlo, "Do you know anyone who can hold a video camera and can edit something together?" And I had been doing dumb little music videos on
God, do we have to
on
see
my
some
own.
of those?
No,
I want to
really
see
do.
some of those early
Yeah.
videos.
Mostly anime or Alien versus Predator was.
Oh my God,
yeah,
I got to see
to
some of those,
Offspring.
yes.
So it's like, yeah, that's where I got my start.
And
then-
brides can't wait to have that guy do their wedding.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how so you've moved primarily to.
Yes. So for a while, I was trying to do both things, because I fell in love with doing video, and so we started offering it more as a package, and we brought on different people I'm almost completely self-taught. I've had a few people come on and help train me in certain aspects, but
certified YouTube mechanic.
yeah. But yeah, I was doing that for quite a few years, and I was working with Carl, trying to do both, being a roadie's assistant, like helping him, but then also, the bride wants to get prep shots of them getting their makeup done or whatever. But I'm like, well, I've got to go load in gear.
Yeah.
So it wasn't always working out, and we started separating it a little bit more, bringing on extra people to either help me or help Carl during those sections where I couldn't be there. And then after a while, eventually, when he decided to leave the first time doing wedding DJing, I ended up meeting up with a friend that I had known since he was a little kid, who was doing wedding videography, and he brought me on as his permanent second, and I've been working with him ever since.
So you've always been self-employed? Do you ever have a real job?
This is the real job.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I was a paper boy
Oh my gosh.
for like 2 years. Yeah, or
Oh
for
my
like
God,
2
are there
winters.
even paper boys anymore?
It was like for the penny saver or something like
Oh,
that,
okay.
and it was
A
like it was like,
penny saver.
it was like
Not even a penny saver
four,
anymore.
it was like 4 blocks, and it was like, oh, do you want to do 8 hours of work for $20? And then I worked at McDonald's for a while until I went into BOCES for construction, and did that for like a summer, and then that's when weddings started kicking off right around the same time that like we're getting more video work, and I just didn't want to try and do both.
Yeah.
That's
So-
pretty cool that you've always been entrepreneurish and not punching the clock, and that's
Yeah.
hard for somebody at a young age to take the step because you need a paycheck, you need to buy a car, you need insurance, you need things that
Yeah.
people need.
Oh, I put off quite a few of those for quite a long time, so
Yeah.
that helped. But I mean, yeah, that was the thing, is I never really fully went out on my own. It was always working for a friend who was in the industry, who I trusted, because I didn't want to have to. I've never wanted to have to try and like go out and find my own clients specifically especially for weddings, and have to sell myself. Because especially at the time, I didn't have enough quality work to be able to sell myself. So that's why it was a great partnership with Carl.
And I didn't want to be an employer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a leader.
What was the
of
name
men.
of the DJ company?
So we went through two evolutions. I started out working for another company. I worked for Black Tie Entertainment for a number of years.
What was the name of it?
Black Tie Entertainment from
Black Tie. What's the guy that owned
Bill
that?
Milham. He still owns it. Good friends
Bill
with him.
Milham, okay.
Yep. He's actually he was Camillus based. Now he's in Onondaga Hill. But no, he's probably one of the biggest fleet services around, where where you have a number of anywhere 10 and 12 people working in the company, and they're the ones covering the major venues for people who need what I would call off the shelf kind of.
But it's
service.
not just wedding. He's doing parties. And
No, he does.
primarily
Most
weddings?
people who do parties primarily do weddings. Let's be frank. There's no money in anything but weddings in this
Right.
area. Everything else is somebody who knows a guy, and that's
Yeah.
just that mentality is what actually kind of aggravated me about the business, which is what propelled me into doing more than just DJing. As a DJ, it's a very different game.
Can I just
No.
so what is that? What do you mean that just the weddings is where they would hire a company, but like parties is where they would get somebody's friend to do it?
So unless
Is
it's a
that what you-
corporate event or
Okay.
a well-invested event, the vast majority of people just don't budget properly to hire a professional for anything like that. They'll call
Gotcha.
somebody they know, or now people can just pull something off of a BJ shelf, and
Yeah.
so
And
but
do it
back
themselves,
do it
or-
themselves. And at the same time, once upon a time, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
You were spending money to have anything at a party, and now people can get by with things. So it's been a different. The last 25 years, there's been 3 or 4 major evolutions in events, where people could get away with something at one point, but it was going to be frowned upon if they even tried. Now you can get away with it, pull the wool over everybody's eyes, and nobody's the wiser. In
Right.
fact, sometimes events are better without a professional there. They feel a bit more breathable, relaxed, and actually that is part of what has transitioned in the wedding business a lot, especially from the era of COVID, is that people they use the word intimate, but what they really mean is I don't want to spend a lot of money and not get what I want to get out of it. Which there's nothing wrong with that mentality either. What I tell most everybody is you can spend $30,000 in a wedding that feels like a couple $100, and you can spend $10,000 in a wedding that feels like 50 grand. So it's not what you spend. It's
10
where
grand
you
on a
spend
wedding
it.
today. That's why we kind of got into this conversation here. Is my son and his fiance, who we love Jenna. Shout out to Jenna. That it's expensive to get married today.
It is.
And everything is an add-on. It seems like the booking the room. Then you got the food, then you got the bar, then you got the dress, then you got the flowers, then you got the DJ, then you got the music, or you got the cake, and everything seems to be an add-on.
And the funny
Yeah.
part is it's always been that way, but it didn't feel that way. And the reason why is because, so I got my first wedding was my sister's wedding. I remember it very clearly. I was like 11 years old. And back in the 80s, especially locally, I don't know where else this may or may not apply in the States, but in central New York, back in the 80s, everybody got married at an Italian restaurant or a fire hall or a VFW. I'm not going to, boomer talk, but that's the way it was and we liked it. Pretty much everybody did that. And because that was the gold standard, the internet wasn't a thing yet, nobody knew that wasn't
Yeah.
bad. And so back then, the vast majority of weddings were 90% family reunion and dinner, and maybe a little bit of dancing at the end before everybody went back to the house. That was every
Sounds
wedding.
like my wedding, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And
how.
that was mid to late
Yeah,
80s,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so about mid 90s, now you had hip hop on the scene. Now that's that is the new mainstream in parties. And so at about that point, you saw a decline in the family element. Not completely, just it's no longer 90%. Now it's 60%. And now people wanted to have a wedding that was longer than 4 hours because now we want some dancing. We don't want to have to transition to the place or another place. So because of that, now people are spending more money on a DJ and more money on food as a second wave. That's where the snacks started coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
So because it's longer, it costs more. And now that it's longer, those venues that could squeeze 3 or 4 weddings in one day can now only do 2.
Yeah.
So now that doubles the cost for the venue, that doubles the cost for the caterer because they can't book out more because they don't have more staff to share. So it just, you can see how it snowballed over the couple decades. And now everything is catered in the sense that I want precisely what I want. I don't want to settle for anything. Who gets married at a fire hall that takes their wedding seriously anymore? No one.
Well, I get a story there. Al Barbagallo
Interesting.
Yeah.
owns
Yes.
Barbagallo's.
Yep.
Al's a great guy. Love
Yep.
Al. I still can't believe that I try to have lunch with him every couple months just to stay involved. He knows a lot about the restaurant business. Last year was his 50th year.
Yeah.
And
But you've seen a
nobody
lot of
came.
changes.
Nobody did an article on him.
that
Nobody
awful?
did something. He's been in the business 50 years in search. And he's done weddings and done stuff.
Yep.
And he's a sharp guy. Al's a sharp guy. And if you remember a couple years ago, he had the restaurant, he had the banquet rooms, he had
Yep.
put some money in there.
Yep.
And I talked to him, geez, you must do a lot of weddings. This is a decade ago plus.
Yep.
And he goes, well, what's
Not
happening, bud, is if you and Pat you're getting married for the first time, you go, I'm going to go to the Embassy Suites.
Yep.
They have rooms. I don't, what's it, $200 a person? Doesn't matter. I want the big banquet room. My daughter only gets married once. Money's no cost.
Yep.
He goes, what I was getting is I don't have a hotel. I have a nice room. We do a good job. But I get the woman who's in her 40s who's getting married for the second or third time, and they go,
Yep.
do you have a $20 buffet?
Yep.
But he had to cater to that. And then he saw what was happening. He knocked the house down. He put a beautiful hotel up. He started doing weddings because he had the hotel.
Yep.
So, and then
Changes
with
everything.
COVID, talk about a guy pivoting.
Yeah.
COVID hits, no weddings. He's got those big rooms. He looks around, and here's a guy in his 70s that has to make a financial decision on what he wants to do with the business. He says, you know what isn't here? A liquor store.
Yep.
So he took one of his banquet rooms and
Love
turned it into Barbagallo's Liquors. He's the only liquor store next to all the hotels. He's pivoted, but he's learned how to pivot through all these
That's
things
exactly
that
right.
have happened.
And that's the same
That's
story for us,
genius,
identical.
Yeah.
Yep. 'Cause
People don't.
As a DJ, I had a ceiling
Do you
on
think
what
they
I
do
could
more
make, too.
DJs or more bands now?
Oh, that's
I've
down
been
the,
to
it's
both.
down the middle.
Oh.
It depends. And now there's a resurgence in DJs. Now there's a resurgence in DJs in the nightclub element.
Yes.
So because of that, it's a little bit different. Plus, bands have always been the good and the bad about a band is that there's authenticity you don't get from a DJ. There's an organic element to a band you just don't get from a DJ. But bands are limited. They only know what they know. And so if they don't know, you have to say, no, I can't play that.
Well,
And
if you
how
have
many
a
people wanna
special
say that?
song now,
Yeah.
because their bridezillas are out there, if your special song is, the theme to Officer and a Gentleman, and you want
I don't even know
that
what
song,
that.
oh my God, that's
Richard Gere,
the song we
Deborah
got
Winter.
married to.
Yep, I'm
What?
old.
That was Kim and my wedding song.
Oh, really?
So,
I don't even know.
But
what
you
that
want
was
that
based
song to be played in the way that you know that song, and
Right.
a band, as
Can't-
good as they
yes.
can be, can't do that song
Well,
justice.
nowadays, especially because it also
different.
depends on like the tier that you're in, like the how much they're willing to spend in the different locations. For about on average a year, when I do like 40 weddings, 5 to 10 on the max are with bands.
Really?
And,
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing is usually like
cost,
occasionally
first of
it's
all.
like, it's like we had someone got the Jess Novak band to play. It's like a
Wow,
local.
she's really good,
She
man.
was.
Oh my
Great.
God.
I hadn't heard of her, and she was
My
great.
buddy
and,
Dan Fye, it's his second best band. Shout out to Dan.
Yeah.
He loves Just Novak.
And
so.
no, it was great. But it's like still, it's like there's even when you get like, but then there's also like a couple different in the area, and even into Canada, a couple different big, the more like corporation ones where it's like, okay, you're booking like the A-Tones, which is like
You're calling
they
an agent to
have
book 'em.
yeah, they have 30 to 40 people on their roster, and it's like, do you want an 8, 10, or 12
Oh,
piece
right, yeah,
band?
yeah, that's
Oh,
way
I
out
think-
there.
And they
I
will
think
learn.
my friend did that.
Yeah, and
But
they will
that's
like,
what's in
oh,
right
we'll
now.
learn 3 songs that aren't in our repertoire for you because you need sometimes because they want to do it right. You need like the right person with the right vocals and everything. Or easy thing is that they have the equipment there. They just for the formal dances of the parent dances and the first dance, they just play an
song.
MP3. They play
Yeah,
a
I
song
see a lot
that
of.
they've
I can
heard.
see a lot of people doing that
Because
as
it's
well.
like, unless you really love like Jess Novak, if you know she does a cover of something and you really love it, you kind of want the original. You don't want to be seeing
Well,
your
do
wedding
you
video in
think-
10 years to
This is a
a
good
band.
question for. We should have
Interesting.
employees come in.
Yeah.
Like,
Interesting.
well, the Billionaires are one of the favorite. Like Dan's favorite band, one of our favorite bands. I don't know if you know the Billionaires.
Yeah, we
and
did an
it's
event,
like
New Year's event with them.
they're amazing. So
Mere Mortals is my favorite.
Yeah.
band.
they would be really expensive to have at a wedding. But
I
so
want
I don't
them
know
at my
what I don't know
wedding.
what the Billionaires charge, but I do know that they play a lot of gigs out,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta imagine we'll have to try to have somebody on the podcast from it, but I gotta imagine that people see them out. And then they get married, and
Yep.
they're like, "Oh my God, that's my
Yep.
favorite band. I want them to play at my
Yep.
wedding."
Yep.
So it's a combination. If you did just weddings, you got to play out into the field too, so that people see your. It's the
And
same
that-
as a restaurant.
That's a big crossover element. You could actually probably spend a whole time on just one podcast just with that because bands are in it for the band.
Right.
DJs are in it for the money. Band's in it for the money too, but it's a distant second because they want the band. They want to
Right.
be playing with. They want to be doing that. It's their passion.
Well, then I
project.
guess
Oh
reverse.
my God, that's so interesting.
And so when you get that, the band
Interesting.
is going to be torn between the money their wedding can promise because it's work.
Yeah.
One of the things that went around about 10 years ago was, especially on social media, where people say, wedding vendors are doubling their cost just because it's a wedding. It's a hidden thing. So don't tell them it's a wedding. Just tell them it's a party. And then,
I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember
and,
that,
And,
yeah.
and the mentality that goes into that is hilarious to me. I see both sides of it, but it's a miseducation on this part, and it's not being wise to it on this part. So for the average client that's looking to book somebody for their wedding, they have a number in their head of what they think they want to spend. That's not the same thing as a budget. And a lot of people don't think of that the same way. There's 4 numbers that play that part, but we'll come back to that if you want. For bands, they're making morsels at best. Well, you get an 8-piece band, and then you pay the sound guy, and then you pay the rental because it's more gear than they
Even if
usually
they
have
get
for the garage.
$2,000, I mean, I
2,000's light. 2,000 is.
I don't know how
is-
they make money unless
They
you're a
don't.
solo guy
Right.
coming out and you get a couple $100.
Yep, and even then,
some tips.
you're
But
limited.
like,
a night
even
out.
when we have live musicians play here, and they come and they play for, let's say we have them for a 2-hour, let's say for some, it's 3 to 5 p.m. They're getting here at like just after 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
To set
So
up.
it's almost, I mean, they're cutting the hourly that they're getting paid for because they only get paid for the 3-hour
They can't work their real job on top of that, right?
And then,
Well, they all got real jobs.
They all got
right,
real jobs, that's
primarily.
right.
yeah, and that, but there's 2 additional hours before and sometime afterwards to break everything down. But, I mean, you can't,
You can't,
as
right?
for me, from my point of view, I can't pay you for your setup time, so you have
No.
to include that in your cost.
Yep.
And so it's just, I can't imagine with a wedding that it's any different
And
with
it's-
more pieces
That's just
too.
the money.
Yeah.
That's not even the time that
Well,
the
then you take
rehearsing.
into the lifestyle. We had a bar back in the 90s. Ken Irving was our DJ. I don't even know if Ken's around anymore. And he was our DJ on Fridays and Saturdays. We had to have a DJ because we had a dance floor kind of thing. We're a bar on the lake, and everybody came because, you could dance. Back then, you danced and did stuff.
Yeah.
You weren't even born yet.
What was your bar?
93.
What do you mean back then?
It was called
People
Bud's
still
Lakefront
dance.
Cafe on Lake Shore Road. It was where Cooper's Landing just
Okay.
last was. We were there in the 90s.
So I was
But,
at Valentine's Beach in the late 90s.
Oh my God, that was West.
Yeah,
Cooper, yeah,
yep,
West.
yep,
We-
and
West-
Stars on the Lake too. That's
Stars
my
on the
own-
Lake,
yep.
yeah, John and Serena. Shout
Yep.
out to John and Serena. The place was great. I worked for them when they
Yep.
were there. Oh my God, they're the nicest people
Yep,
ever.
they sure
yes.
were.
So yeah, we were on the end. Gators Mug was out there. There isn't a bar on Oneida Lake now.
No, I know.
It was just
even the
crazy.
even the country club has
It's-
declined.
it's,
Yep.
So, but
Sorry.
we had Ken, and we paid him $100, and he came in from like 9 to 1
Yep.
and DJ'd, and then somebody pay him tips or stuff. But the other challenge is that he drank while
Yep.
he was playing.
The vast majority of
So,
entertainers.
I'm sure that, and I've seen guys that come out that play. We love local music. Buy the guy that's playing a shot, give him a drink.
Yep.
So maybe you're working a full-time job. Maybe
Yep.
you're having when does it become Blues Brothers?
Right, and
Remember
if it's
the
a
scene in
Friday,
Blues
if it's a
Brothers?
Friday night, they've been up since 6. They
Well,
worked
yeah.
the job. Now they're doing this, and yeah, it's a thing.
One of the best
And they have
scenes
a
in
wedding
Blues
tomorrow.
Brothers ever is where they go play a gig and then get hammered at the gig, and they get done. They're like, "Do you have our money?" And they're like, "Money?
Yeah.
You owe us $300."
Yeah,
Because
right.
they were
From the bar
drinking-
tab?
From the bar tab. That's
And
that's
now
how it is.
imagine the client that's their choice of entertainment.
Yep.
And so now this is where they think that why would I spend that much money on a guy who just did that last night?
Yeah.
So I get
But
that
it's
too.
changed. I don't
It's
see a
very
lot of
much so.
bars
No,
having a
it's not.
DJ anymore.
Nope.
There's not dancing going
Well,
on in bars.
back then too, to DJ was showing up with music. If you
Yeah.
had music, you were a DJ. And that's actually when I got started. In fact, I got started in college just doing that. I collected music my whole life, so now I'm like, okay, I might as well make some money with it.
Yeah.
I showed up for a couple $100 and I played what people wanted. And that's all you needed to do until the internet.
So now it's different. So what's
Very different. It's a
So
whole other thing.
what's the main difference that you
So,
see?
so back then, your selection, shut up, you talk too much. Back then, you showed up, you were worth your money because you had equipment, you had music. So it wasn't you, it was what you brought that defined your value.
Okay.
And then if people liked you, if you actually played what people wanted, not just what you wanted, which back then that was very common, you could be successful. And I got started then. My original DJ service was just that. It was just showing up, playing what people wanted, and leaving.
You played weddings at Stars?
I didn't. No, I did that. I was their trivia night back then.
Oh, God, wow, that's a
So
million
that was a
years
long
ago,
time ago.
yeah.
We're dating ourselves now. But no, but back then even then I was part of that era where there was no mixing, and if there was, that was a club element, and that was very different. That was turntables and records. People didn't do that on CDs.
Well, you make
yet.
you make a lot of sense in that. Well, even now.
But they do that now. That's
Yeah,
they do
expected
that
now.
That's
But
now-
now,
yeah.
But
now
your value
people
is
can do.
Yeah.
Now
it's
people can do it on their phone.
You
Well,
don't
because
have the-
I would
Right.
think, so if I was to hire a DJ, and I don't know anything about this, but if I wanted a DJ, I would weigh, okay, I can just create a Spotify playlist of
Yep.
songs
Yeah.
that I like
Yep.
and have it play. But if I hired a DJ, I would expect those like other elements that
yes.
I can't do,
Yep.
where it's like you mix or you engage or
Yeah.
that
Yep.
the
The engage
list
part, yeah.
the list flows, because for me to make a Spotify list, I would
can't
just
predict the timing.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and I would just pick all of the songs that I liked,
Right.
but I would never consider like which ones play the best off of each
Yep.
other. So if I hired a DJ, that's would be what I
And that's, I'm
expected.
actually glad to hear you say that because most people don't think about that. In fact, when I was just a DJ in the wedding business, that was one of the things that was our biggest gripe. Me and Bill would talk about it all the time, which was the vast majority of songs that exist are either too fast to slow dance to or too slow to fast dance to. So
Yeah.
when people complain about why do I hear the same songs at every wedding I go to, that's why.
Yeah.
It's because anything outside of that little sweet spot, and what? I can't dance to that. Is what you, and you'll
Well,
get that
that's
a lot.
what pisses me off the most,
Yeah.
when you go even to a wedding or something,
Yep.
someplace where you intend to go and dance,
Yep.
is once the crowd's up and they're jamming, they're doing it, the fucking DJ decides, I like this song by, whoever, Allman Brothers. And
Mm-hmm. Yep.
it's down, and it's just, and they
And you
want to
just
play that
lost
because that's
everything.
their favorite song.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you
But the
can't
same-
get them to play.
what
You
we
go,
get
hey,
more
could you play
often than
this?
not-
I'm the DJ, man. I'm cool, and you're going to listen to what I
That
want.
doesn't happen anymore in the wedding business. What
I can't
actually-
see it, but I've seen it in the bar
It
side.
it
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
happens the bar side because everybody wants to do what they want to do. It's just like social media. I don't
Yeah.
want to hear your opinion. I want to hear my opinion coming out of your mouth, right? So
Yeah.
it's so it's
I agree
that.
totally with that.
And,
Yeah.
and so when it
Yeah,
comes to
you do?
music,
Yes.
with music, now it's less likely to be the DJ doing that and more likely to be someone in the family that tries to overpower the playlist and say, well, I'm paying for this
Well, yeah,
wedding.
yeah, yeah.
And so you get that a lot.
Oh,
and
fuck that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so you mentioned
Yeah.
Bridezillas. The good part is when
I'm
Ryan-
not saying Jenna is going to be a bridezilla. Jenna's going to be amazing. So
Will
and you don't even have to
stop?
worry. It's how about Jenna's mom?
she's, oh my God, Chrissy's awesome.
Okay,
She'll
'cause-
be
Oh
great
my God,
too.
that's
this is
so
what we run
interesting
into.
that you say that.
We don't
it's
get
not,
bridezillas, we
it's
get drama
not
mamas.
It's the
drama
mom.
mamas.
Yeah.
Is it the bride's mom or?
9 times out of 10. But
Nora, chill.
that's
Watch it,
changing.
Nora.
That's changing. That's changing.
That is changing a lot because you can get, oh, it's my baby
Yep,
boy
my
getting
baby boy,
married.
yep.
I
We get that a lot
want,
now.
I want this all to be special.
And in the last 5 years,
yeah.
that's
Poor
become more
Pat, my baby boy. I'm not gonna-
He's not. We're not even. Okay.
so far from being engaged.
Yeah.
Especially
So-
after this weekend.
Stop it.
Sorry. St. Patrick's Day weekend, that's when we're recording.
That's fair.
So, oh my God, that's interesting because I feel like you probably, when you do your
Yeah.
videos, you probably meet with the bride and the groom.
I do on
Wait.
occasion.
Who is it
has in the
more-
past. It's usually my partner who I work with,
Oh.
Alec, who does a lot of the. We've thankfully switched away with the pandemic. Almost every meeting is now on Zoom because everyone knows how to use it. Zoom or through iMessage or
Right.
the video chat service that Apple has.
That's awesome.
And it's nice because you don't have to worry about like, oh no, one of them couldn't make it or do something where it's like, okay, no, can you spare 5 minutes to pop in just to we have a couple
Yeah.
questions or whatever. I'll usually, when I do sit in, usually it's not for the, we usually have, our business usually has 2 meetings with the clients. One is like, this is what we offer. What are you looking for? These are the different packages. And we talk about, so people are informed when they're coming to us of what they're going to,
yeah.
what they're going to get paid, what we're offering for what we're getting paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is when it's between a month and like 2 to 3 weeks out from the actual wedding. We'll go over stuff. We'll work out timelines. I'll sometimes be there when there's like, I'm there for more like logistic issues of, oh, we also want it to be live streamed, or we also, it's in the middle of the woods. We don't have anyone. Can you provide sound amplification or different, something like that? I'll try and help out with that.
Is it mainly the bride and the groom though?
It's usually the bride.
Or just the bride?
It's, a lot of times because most of our weddings, like the groom's still there. He cares and everything.
Yeah.
He'll be there. Because some of it's also, I usually go with the groom in the morning.
Okay.
So I'll help him like
So you're
walk
doing
through.
the whole show.
Yep.
Do you
so
feel-
Grooms and the bride getting her hair done kind of thing all the way
So
through.
do drama mamas ever come up to you and say, can you please get this shot, even though they weren't in the
So,
meetings?
yes, there will be an occasion where we'll have like a few different people. We're like, oh, can you get this or can you get that? And it's like, sure, I can get that. Most of the time, I will go get that.
Yeah.
Or it's sometimes when it's something that's like, okay, this is something that's clearly better in a photo. I'll go get the photographer
gotcha,
for
yeah.
you.
Oh, okay.
And so, because it's one of those things where
And
like
you guys are video only.
yeah, we only provide video, and there's sometimes where it's like, okay, if it's you don't just, especially in the music, we're in the highlights and you're seeing the day. A lot of it's emotion and movement, and it's very planned out. You don't just suddenly want. I know you love Grandma Beth, but we don't just need her sitting in a wheelchair next to some random cousin in the video. And
You
if
need
we
a picture of that.
we need
Right.
you need a picture of that, because the picture, they can give it to them and they can show it. Whereas even if I capture it, it's not going to be in
But
the
isn't
video.
that the
Same.
best? The best videos that I've seen from weddings are when they have somebody over here and they hand a microphone to the old people and they don't know that it's a microphone, and they try to talk in the wrong end of it, and people say stupid drunk stuff. You ever see those videos?
So
I
Oh my gosh, where they
really
go,
don't
okay,
know what you're
so
talking
so you're
about.
talking about like what should be like bloopers
Yes.
or something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
sometimes they're not bloopers. They're just like people go, hey, we're going to take the videographer around. We're going to hand the microphone to everybody at
Yeah.
the thing and say, Michelle, what do you
You're-
think about
you're
Jen
absolutely
and Zach?
right.
You go, oh, Jen and Zach, thank you for inviting us or
We-
Grandma will get it and go, it's.
That's probably an additional service, though. I
Well,
would assume.
like,
you do a lot of that, or-
It's an additional edit.
We respect clients who think that's very important. We
I
very
didn't know
rarely
our
offer that.
I would say that it's two different things.
It
I would
is.
say that you would want, so in my bouginess of what I would ideally
That's why
want my
I wore
wedding.
all my APW gear today to represent.
Oh, and
public high schools.
I wore my Disney shirt. Yikes. No, I would say that I would want a videographer that would do all of the stuff that's important, and then I would want like a social media person.
Yeah.
So
That would
so
do
that's-
well. That
so
would-
that right there
would
is a big element to it, and that's one of the things that before he actually started doing video, I wasn't aware of, and I got started and asked for elements that were, you're not going to want to watch this in your wedding video, but you're going to want video of it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make
cool.
the video.
That's a good point.
So it makes a separate thing,
And
and
that's also one of the things is that, because we do offer, the two main things that we offer is either a highlighted edit of different varying lengths, or in most of our packages, we call it documentary edit, or a full recording, which is that when the ceremony starts, it's the entire ceremony, whether it's Catholic or it's out in the woods, and in the time in between, whether it's an hour or 15 minutes, then it's introductions, first dance, speeches. If there's like a really special dance after that, so it's like on average, it's like the long edit is an hour to an hour and a half, maybe in the long end for some of them, where they're like, no, it's a Polish wedding where we have a couple of these very special dances that everyone's going to go, and Polish people can dance, in my experience. And it's like, oh, absolutely, we'll record that, because it's an entire, you're at a wedding and it's like, oh, it's the ring forms and everyone's like, oh, I guess I'll go out there and dance. It's like, no, you have like 8 people in the ring and they're all dancing insane. It's like,
That's
who
pretty
do I
wild.
look
I
at? It's
don't
like,
have that.
sure, absolutely, we'll give
Michelle
you a
is
long format of
professionally
that.
trained by an Irish dance by Ann Sullivan.
Oh, I've seen it on social media.
Oh,
seen
yeah.
her
I've seen
dance?
some of the dance. Yeah,
Well,
she-
There's
we had-
video of you dancing. I got to get Ann to give me some.
No, not of me as a baby.
No, it's
we
on
just
the
did.
brasserie.
We just did because we have so many redheads that work here. So we just did a competition of the redheads for St. Patrick's Day.
Was it on?
It was
it's
a
social.
story, I think.
Oh,
She
story.
put
Oh my God,
I
on
gotta
my-
watch that. I
I don't
gotta
know
watch
if it's up still, but she'll put them on. We did like a bunch
gotta
of
check
the
out
blindfolded
Sasha.
Guinness pouring and an Irish. We did a whole
That's cool.
competition. But
I'll ask Sasha.
okay, so then let me ask you: do people get the whole? Do they ask for, or do you provide like all the raw fitted?
favorite question, right?
So
Well,
we
I know,
offer it-
I don't-
We
I
offer
mean-
it as an additional thing, because it's also one of the things most people don't realize is that for every moment, we go a little overkill.
This is it.
So for
Brace
like, say
yourself.
it's your wedding ceremony, we have 5 cameras running,
Right.
all capturing mostly not exactly the same shot, but the same moment in time.
Okay.
And if we offer you the raw footage, then you're looking,
my
okay,
gosh.
okay, you're looking at one camera that's just getting Pat's face, and then you're looking at another angle that's just getting your face. And there's certain times where like things aren't happening, so you're just standing there going in the middle of
Yeah.
your wedding. You don't want to look at certain things. So in that full recording, we cut to the right angles and everything.
Gotcha.
So, but
That's a
then
good
I
example.
would
We
say-
do offer both as an add-on, both a dancing video where we'll take like highlights, and it's usually like 30 minutes long of everyone dancing throughout
Oh,
the
that's
night.
fun.
And then we do offer raw footage, but it's also difficult because we record in a very high quality. So it's like a wedding could be like, oh, it's a terabyte, 2 terabytes. And it's like, okay, how do you want to get this? Do you want a giant hard drive that you could lose later on? Or
Do you get nervous about people putting footage that you would be like, That's not my best work. Like, please don't post that.
We
I mean-
may or may not cull the footage slightly because that's also the thing is that do you really want to look at like say you've got a bouquet, we do like what I call like lay flats where it's like, oh, it's your flowers, your rings, your like anything,
yeah.
your jewelry and everything.
It, like,
and it's
zooms
sitting
in
there
or-
all arranged. But then we're getting like spending 10 minutes just getting tons and tons of different shots and like, oh no, that one's out of focus. Let's do it again. And it's just so many takes that you just
The
you
raw
don't-
footage
you-
doesn't
yeah,
make sense.
You get a shadow
Yeah.
coming in the room randomly because of the sun and the
or
clouds. It just-
we're doing something and also you're getting the raw audio, so you're looking through and suddenly, you know,
Say the F word.
well, we are very especially when because you know it's a wedding. I enjoy weddings. If we're not giving raw footage or we're not doing a dancing video, I might sing along as I'm recording or something.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's like if we're told that, it's also we have to be mindful. It's not us; it's other people. Because there's a lot of times where we'll have a camera set up that's not next to us. It's in the back a ways away, and then you've got some plus one who doesn't know any of the family and is just gabbing through speeches.
all the time.
I so have a
Really?
joke right now to tell, but I can't tell.
There's so many
Don't
times.
do it.
There's
You're
so
stressing
many
me
times
out.
where it's the middle of like a really good heartfelt speech.
Yep.
And it's just people in the back of the room
Yep.
just
Talking about
gabbing
golf.
away.
Well, that's
That
my next
pisses me
question.
off if people talk during
Yeah.
the speeches. It's
But
like
they don't know that they
7
can be
minutes.
heard. They think that
Yeah.
they think they're far enough away. It's people. That's what people do everywhere, and that's actually one of the things
That's my biggest pet
that
peeve.
transitioned me
Yeah.
out of just DJing because I'm controlling that moment for sound, and when he's trying to get video, and I'm. What do? You have to be able to address that, and you have to be able to control people. So,
Well, that was my next question. At what stage of a 2, 3, 4 hour wedding, everything's nice, everybody's happy, everybody's in love, alcohol?
well, first of all, there's no such thing.
So, but
There's no such thing.
at some point, that's one of the reasons to come on is I want to hear what's the worst thing that's happened at a wedding. If you haven't, I was
I
at a
do have
wedding.
one story that
I was
I don't know
in
if
a
we'll tell,
wedding,
yeah.
a buddy that got married at the Polish home,
Mm-hmm.
Greg Ellsworth, when he got married, married his girl, and I can't remember her name now, Carla, Kayla, whatever. And had a couple guys, this is in Fulton, had a couple guys that showed up to the wedding in wife beaters. You know what a wife beater is, right? The
Yeah,
white shirt.
yeah.
And they got in a fight, like a couple of cousins fist fight at the wedding.
What?
So,
Oh, yeah.
So clearly that
Back
wedding
in the
is
day,
not
that
gonna
was a
last.
thing.
This is Fulton, it's the Polish home.
Yeah.
You add a bunch of elements to it, but
Well, I would lose I would be so mad.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's.
If you've had
what's your
fights-
worst?
And
will
I'll
you
tell
share
that
your worst
we-
stories?
We've priced ourselves out of that
that's
element.
that's part of
Yeah.
it is that like when you're spending as much when admittedly we will still get I'll still have weddings even at the price point that we're at where we get there and then it's like, oh, Uncle Jimmy decided to show up in a polo. And it's like, okay, thanks for making the effort. You at least wore some buttons. But then there's also other times where it's just like, no, I've had some of them where they show up and they show up like halfway during the ceremony. They're wearing a t-shirt and they're just staying to eat and then they're leaving and maybe some drinks and then they're leaving. It's like, okay, that's fair. Every family has them. You invited them to be nice, but they don't, most of the time, those people don't make a big
that's
fuss
not
or
the story
anything.
we're looking for. Like,
No,
Sorry to
that's,
disappoint you.
What's your craziest story, or you don't want to say?
I mean, that's up to Carl.
Not anymore.
I mean,
yeah.
because I think my worst wedding story was with you, when,
I have so many I'm thinking of right
yeah,
now.
the bride asked us to edit out the face of her like sister-in-law and her mother-in-law because, and I made the joke, like I was like,
Now,
I was,
think about that though. Edit out the face
Yeah.
in a video.
Yeah, and
it's
like,
already
you want it to
funny.
blur
It's
it?
already
not,
funny.
not
Okay,
the
yeah.
body,
She's
just like
like,
put
I don't
a
wanna
black
see
spot
her.
on
I don't
the
wanna see it.
face.
Right.
So I made the offhanded joke of, and we were like getting along a little bit, and I'm like, hey, I can throw up a picture of the Wicked Witch of the West or something. She's like, that's
love
good.
that.
I love that. Do that. And I'm like,
Oh
okay,
my
that was mostly a
God.
joke. I will try not to get shots, but then it's like we get to the wedding, and I'm sorry.
Oh, wasn't this the one you were telling me? She's like the only one dancing, right?
Yeah, like the sister that didn't want to be, that was supposed to not be in the edit, is one of the only people that's out there dancing and dancing well.
And having
And
fun.
it's like, okay, I'm going to record this. Maybe if we don't use it, I'll try and get like the back of her head mostly or something. But like, what are you going to, you want a dancing video and she's out there the entire time. Do you want me to go
That
tell her
was
not
one
to
of the
dance?
last times that was actually a turning point wedding for us because that was when we were going from just peppering in as offering.
Yeah.
We called it candid video. So and even that, the development of it is that we were also around for the transition from when people hired a videographer to people wanting a wedding video, which is very different.
Yeah.
The videographer was people documenting the wedding, and then usually they would slow the footage down, put some cheesy music over it, and they called it a wedding video. And that's what people don't
Yeah.
want.
Oh,
And thank God,
yeah.
because we didn't want to give them that either. But back in the 80s and 90s, that's what
Yeah.
you did. And most people didn't even do it.
I
Spend the
recently
money
saw
on it.
someone's video because the father had passed and the bride was like, "Oh, can you maybe work this into our first dance or something?" And they wanted to like something. They wanted me to like have. She wanted her like brother to dance and then me to like AI replace his face with her father or something from this old grainy footage. I'm like, well, you can't do that, but maybe we can like throw it up on a projector or something so you can get something. And we're like, she sent us their mother's wedding video, and the guy just ran. It starts off with a stork coming in, like an old cartoon stork flying in and then dropping. Oh, you got a special present or something, and it's weird. And then
That was the
that
old
was
school video.
Also, they cut in. I think it was Cinderella. They cut from her mother's first dance, like started overlaying the Cinderella shots where it's Prince Charming or whatever them dancing. And I'm just
that's like old school.
Yeah.
Old
And
school.
the vast majority of people back in the early 2010s, when we started doing candid video, that's the mentality people had of wedding videos. And we were trying to change that, and at the same time, give him enough room to be able to flex his muscles, because videographers standard in early 2010, which by the way, 2010 was the heyday of weddings. It's when the technology was not good enough that people couldn't do it on their own. And yet it was common enough that people tried to make some room in their budget for something. So that was where people who wanted to experiment and still make some additional money and try something new with their business could actually get into it and do it reasonably in a short amount of time and with very few expectations, because the expectations were horrible with that kind of thing. So now we have a chance to say, okay, you know what, we're just going to offer coverage. And back then, it was as simple as him with a camcorder. We literally spent, what, $200 on a Walmart
I think
on a camcorder.
Because the first wedding we
But
did,
she just wanted footage of her
yeah, I
dancing
think it
her
was
first
like
dance or
400 for
ceremony.
like a Panasonic.
Yeah,
it was
it
like
was
That was
it
our
was
wedding.
the
Right.
first.
Just
Well, when you talk about,
I
I'm
remember
not
the
very
wedding, too.
technological savvy, but I did overlay another video into my wedding video.
I'm so scared right now.
you did.
We had the tape. I was recording a TV show, and Kim will know, but I recorded like 10 minutes of a TV show over top of our wedding video.
Unintentional.
Unintentionally.
There's
Kim was-
Everybody Loves Raymond episode about that
Yes,
very
yes,
thing.
exactly. Kim does not like that story. I can't remember what show it is, but
I
she
can't
would
imagine
remember
why.
in a second.
Do people watch their full wedding videos
Not
back?
anymore. Now it's a social media.
Yeah, so nowadays, I mean, that's the thing is that no
The
one.
They
applications
post them,
change.
right?
There's
Yeah.
there's the 1.5 to 2 hour long edit where it's like, okay, this is for family, this is for your parents, your grandparents,
grandma, yep.
so people who couldn't make it there. They're gonna get everything, most likely everything that they would have gotten if they had arrived, if they had been there, because that's all the important parts they would have cared about. Then there's on average, a 3 to 5 minute highlight that we do that's set to like I said, we call it a cinematic film, where it's the two of you seeing each other for the first time in the morning, or reading notes to each other. The pictures in between when it's just the two of you, or your bridal party, and all the other moments in between, the highlights of the day. And we still get, because we've done a few for like other people in the industry of like either photographers or people who do hair and makeup and things like that for wedding days. And we'll see them all the time. They're like, oh, I got married last year. Every week I'm watching that video. And it's like, I love hearing that. It's like, because
I
it's,
haven't watched our wedding video in a couple of years.
but how long was your wedding video?
And when was it?
Hour,
Yeah. Right.
35 years
It's a
ago.
bit different than
It's
if
a
it was
different
3
thing.
to 5 minutes. It was a more
I looked
intimate thing to
exactly
you.
the same.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
35 years ago, there was intermissions in movies. There's not anymore. The expectations of what people
Well, the
wanted
funny
to watch
part
was
was
different too.
Kim's roommate, Chrissy, was dating a different guy then, who she ended up marrying and ended up divorcing. But they got in a fight at our wedding, and they're just like overlaying the whole,
seen a
or
pattern
watching
here.
the whole dance floor. And you can see like, we knew they were in a fight, but you could see like Chrissy walking this way and looking for Dave. And then like she turned around behind Ryan, and then Dave was walking this way looking for Chrissy, and we saw that.
Them looking for each other.
Looking for each
On the
other in the
video.
video,
That's
which was pretty cool.
Oh,
And then we had, for our DJ, we had my
a
wife's
happy
cousin
accident.
Ronnie came, because like you just said, the value you bring. No offense to Ryan now
No.
for helping us, but for being part of what we do for podcasts, the value that you bring and what we're paying for is sure your ability to edit and do the videos, but we're paying for this.
Yeah.
And the equipment that you have. So he had some CDs, he had a box, he had a briefcase that had all his music in it. He was a DJ at the 62 WHEN radio station
Who was it?
overnight. Ron Jost,
Yep, I remember
my
the
wife's
name.
cousin. So he did our video, and then because my drunken college friends, we ended up at my house afterwards. Ron ended up calling us. Somebody stole all his equipment.
Yep.
No way.
Yeah. it
At
turns-
your wedding?
At my wedding. So next thing you know, my buddy Biff that I went to college with is walking around our house going, I'm a businessman. And he had a briefcase, and the briefcase had all of Ron's shit in it. He just
my God.
saw it on a table and stole it. So pretty
I'm
stupid.
happy to say that doesn't happen anymore. or at
Well,
least
but
not-
like you said, I think
Yeah.
you price yourself. What's a typical
Absolutely.
price? $3,000 to $5,000.
Between 3 and 5 is our average. But it's also the thing is that when I show up with 5 cameras at a wedding venue and everything, I think we bring an average of $30,000 worth of gear.
Yeah. See, that's what you're paying
And some
for.
of these people, some of the weddings that I've been to
Yeah.
and that I've been in, the brides start at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shit,
So you, and then
So-
it goes till 11 at night. And so what, so
Thankfully,
you have to
nowadays-
just, that's
thankfully we don't
crazy.
go. It's very rare we go that. I think usually, unless it's something very special, we usually cap out at 12 hours. The average is about 10. Because realistically, would you want us to show up an hour after you wake up?
No.
You don't have your makeup on. You're
Yeah.
in. You're in. Just it's one of those things where like, no one wants to see footage of that early in the morning. So on average, what we do is we show up an hour before you're done getting ready, so that like the bride's hair and either the hair or the makeup is done. We then in the time that first hour that we're there, we'll go around, get shots of the dress. We'll get shots of we will get a few shots of like people hanging out and having fun, like mimosas in the morning or whatever. But we'll be getting
Yeah.
shots of the rings, everything
Yeah.
else that's accompanying. Then we'll get like the last 5 minutes of whatever's last to be done. So or get like
Like putting
fake
the
touch,
dress
or
on
like the
or-
hair's all done, and you're getting like fake touch ups of the makeup or whatever. Then the dress getting put on. First look with your girls, or maybe a first look with your father-in-law or your father, I should say, and maybe your brother or something. And then from there, then we move on to the ceremony. Alec will be doing that while I'm off getting the groom getting dressed. If there's like notes to be read or anything, we'll get shots of that. But no one needs it that
So
early in the morning.
if you're recording there for 10 hours with all your equipment, you got at least a couple hours set up and a couple hour breakdown, right? So what's a typical, is that including time setting up and breaking down?
Kind of.
a little different for
yeah,
them.
it's a little bit different because like most of the gear we have is either like for the ceremony, I'll leave early, go because the guys don't need as much. I can get including like reading a 5-minute note. I need 20 minutes with a groom. Like it doesn't
But
take
they
guys
don't
to get
do
dressed.
any- I mean,
I'll
not
get
that they
there-
don't do anything,
No,
but it's-
half of it's wrangling them to be like, okay, you're like we tell them, showered, shaved if you're gonna shave, pants and undershirt on when we get there. Like that's the level we want you at. And then it's like, okay, we'll pretty much have you get dressed twice equivalent because we'll have to get a couple different shots. Then it's like, okay, are we doing any groomsmen photos before the ceremony? Are we doing a few, other little things? Get
That's
the
another
mom
thing.
doing
You're
the
sharing
boutonnieres.
that space and that time with a photographer.
With a photographer, which
too.
usually we get to work with the photographers, and it's like, okay, we do them 2 shots, so we can get
Anybody
like a
you
shot.
like working
We
with or
swap.
don't like
Oh,
working with?
there's a few of them we love working with. I honestly try not to remember the names of the people I don't like working with.
Yeah.
But no,
It's got to be
there's
the
a
same for bands or DJs. It's got to be a community,
That's actually
Yeah.
why I quit.
Yeah.
because of there's some people that you probably don't like to work with.
Yeah, but most of the time we especially because we try and work off the photographers because usually the photographers are the ones that are gone to first and like, hey, we like your style. So we try and shoot a complementary to that. We don't like if they're shooting super bright and airy and everything's like not the closest thing I can think of is washed out, but still having some color, but it's very bright.
First generation Instagram.
Yeah, we don't want to show up and be like, no, I want it dark and moody and tons of shadows and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that. So we'll try and be
Interesting.
complimentary. And then when we're done with that, I'll rush off to the ceremony site. It takes me, like a Catholic ceremony, like running in there. If I'm running fast, I can do it like in about 20 minutes, but I try and take my time, talk to the priest, do different things. Like 45 minutes is the nice comfort zone.
So if you're there 10 hours, how much
Yeah.
editing time afterwards? 10 hours?
When I heard you say you're paying for the equipment, I heard him. I
yeah.
heard, I
So
heard
say
him cringe.
you
I
got
know, me too. I was
20, 25 hours into a wedding, and
Oh,
you got
keep going.
or more.
So I mean, yeah, if
So what do you get?
we're-
You have to
$100
at
an
least,
hour?
if
we're
you,
for
watch
their-
it, if you film for 10 hours, you probably have to watch it through at least twice.
Oh, keep going. No,
Four
you
times,
have
5
no
times,
idea.
you have
I
to
mean,
watch
that's
it
the,
through.
that's the thing is, well, because also we have like the different products that we offer of like the full edit. That's not as bad because you can sync up all 5 cameras for the times that they're running and sort of watch it through once at regular speed or maybe like slightly sped up because you know sort of the things that are happening, but then you have to watch it again to look in the background and things you weren't expecting. So if something is crazy is going on in the background, you can catch that beforehand. So,
And it's not an if. There's always something.
so that's one bit, but then also the main creative edit, you're looking through, because it's not like every camera's recording the entire time, but I'd say for every hour that we're recording 2.5 hours of footage. Because you have 5 cameras, they're not on the entire time, but they're
wow,
on most
yeah.
of the time. At the very least, for almost every hour that we're there, we have at least 2 cameras running the whole time.
So if the wedding, you're there 10 hours,
Yeah.
so you go home, how much editing to get to a final product for a $5,000 wedding? How many hours total you
A
got?
$5,000 wedding for him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For video.
That's probably a solid at least week of 9 to 5.
So
because-
you got 40 hours. in it.
Yeah, because
Minimum.
you're looking through. The first step is you're looking through at least on the 2 main
curating.
cameras. Yeah, you're culling footage. You're going through and looking at every single multiple shot take, and you're grabbing all the best
So when
stuff.
you look at it like that, you're making 100. I mean, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
diminish
No, say it,
what
say
you're
it.
doing,
This
but
is what
you're
people
making
need to know.
$100 an hour. People got to understand that.
They don't
Oh my
understand.
God, it's $5,000. All he's
Yeah.
doing is
Exactly.
setting up cameras.
Yep.
No, man. One, you got the investment into the equipment, and you
Yeah.
got the editing,
And
and,
what
you
you-
got to deal with
I mean,
them.
thankfully, the nice thing is, especially now
That's-
in the place that the business is in, we have our product out there. You can see the quality.
Somebody can research
We
and
don't
look
really
and-
compete with anyone in the local area. We're at the top of the game in the local area, and you can go and get a better video. It's not like you can't, but most likely you're flying someone in from out of state.
Right.
It's a great. We're turning down more work than we can take because there's so many people wanting to work with us, and also when we show up and like, oh, you spent this, how much? And then we show up with 5 cameras, going and setting up tripod. You always see us running around.
Yeah.
And it's also one of the things that Carl taught me is that everyone at a wedding, doesn't matter if you're the DJ or if you're a videographer or if you're the catering staff, we all should be on the same team. So if someone
Yeah.
comes to me, because when we don't dress up like a wedding guest, we try to dress up nice, but a lot of times we end up looking more like a nice wait staff.
You don't want to be better dressed than the guests of honor.
Yeah.
That's why the tux DJ is gone, thank God.
Yeah.
Not always.
I unfortunately, yeah, I
dealt
know,
with a few of those.
that's fair too.
But so I don't expect Grandma Sue to recognize that I'm not the photographer or that I'm not one of the staff there, because sometimes I'm running. Oh, bride and groom, what do you want to drink? If depending on the location you're at, they might not have a wait staff or a dedicated
We're all
person.
busboys,
I'm just
we're all staff.
Oh yeah,
wow,
what,
you
what,
work-
do
you
what
have
drink
to
do
be.
you
You
want?
have to be.
And so
You
I'll
have
go
to
tell
be.
the bride. Oh, bride
people
wants
don't
this,
know.
groom wants this. I go take it to him. But if someone's like, oh, this is wrong. There's something is going on. I'm like, I will. As soon as I can, I'll find someone to fix that for you. And so I'll go tell the wait staff or find something. It's like we're all trying to work together. And then people who were there see that. People who know that I'm there to do video see that I'm helping out other people and doing stuff that comes across.
Well, I
what's
think-
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, because like from a catering perspective, when we've catered weddings, you have to, because it's kind of, I mean, you want the bride and the groom to have the best day and working with,
Yeah.
but like every aspect of a wedding has your name and reputation on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like
The
you
whole
need
time.
the whole time. So like, and when people think about a wedding, they think about all of those different pieces that make it good or not. So like if you're working together with the other, I guess I would say like trades, I don't know
Yeah.
if that's what it's called. It makes it just more a more
If the
enjoyable
if the
experience.
videographer was shit, then the caterer looks like shit.
Yep,
Because
absolutely.
They remember it as a wedding, not like, oh, my food was
Yeah.
really good, but they're going to think of it as
And,
a
They-
and
wedding.
yeah.
clients have no idea. I've turned down weddings because of who else they've already hired.
Yeah.
And they don't understand. It's one of those things where I know this is going to blow up in my face. no matter
Because
how-
like
yep.
if I show up and we're recording the speeches and we're trying to get good audio to include in the video and everything, and the DJ sound setup is constantly crackling. Like we do our best. We have extra recorders that we like put on, try to strap onto the microphone. We bring like 5 different recorders to try and make sure we can get the best audio we can.
Can we tell them
But
about
there's
the
some.
OCAP packs?
That's another thing.
After you
But yeah, we'll get there, and it's like sometimes it's just no. Even if we do our best, they decided to put the speaker and it's blowing out and it's causing a feedback or something. It's like
Or it's
we can do the
resonating
best we
the not
can,
frequency.
but
Yep.
the next person who watches our video just hears bad audio,
And they think it's
they
him.
don't know it wasn't our fault.
Or like, I'm like, anytime there's speeches, I'm like, my staff, like, we're not walking around right
Yep.
now.
Yeah.
Like, don't
right.
walk in
That's
front of the
So
camera.
many times,
So
'cause
common.
we'll
Don't
set up. It's
clear
fine.
the plates.
Oh, tell 'em about
clink.
ducking in
Yeah,
front of the
I'm like,
camera.
get
Oh.
out of the way.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like I appreciate wait staff trying to be nice, but if you're ducking down and you're slowing down and you don't know what my framing is, you're still in the shot. Now you're just taking twice as long to get
And you're
by.
taking the
But I
focus. Whereas if you
understand.
just walked past it,
yeah,
it'd
if you
be
just walk
fine.
past, it'd be half a second. You wouldn't notice it. But I understand you're trying. You're at least trying. But there's some times where we get to a place and it's like, okay, you have a few minutes. Go get your salads and everything to the head
Yeah.
table. Do it. Okay, now we're doing speeches, and then in the middle of the speech, some wait staff it's not their fault. I know. I literally see the head person tell them to go, and they're going either getting a drink order or asking what the bride and groom wants for their food, steak or chicken. You're standing in front of a moment where you have like the father of the bride telling a story about her
Yeah.
childhood, and you're now
Steak
crouched
or
down in
chicken.
front of the
Right.
table.
And you're like distracting the guests
Right.
from
Yeah.
what they should be hearing.
And it's
Like,
like-
I would rather have somebody wait a couple minutes for a drink so that they can listen to the
Yeah.
speech and not take away that
thing to
moment
know.
from
And
like
what you're
the.
talking about right there is
Yeah.
the thing that people don't think about. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You don't
No,
wanna
you're
finish
good.
your thought first?
Oh, it's just like, yeah, that's the thing. Whereas like I understand, especially coming from a perspective of like food. Food's one of the most important things because if people are going to complain about anything,
It's the food.
that's the thing that they're going to complain about if their food is cold. But it's also if you have a giant dance floor and I'm say in the middle of the dance floor trying to get like the wide shot and having the speech going on. I don't care if you have all your different tables and stations and everything all around the dance floor, all around me, as long as they're not in the frame and you guys are going around moving. If you hear a little bit of clanking or whatever in the shot, we can remove it a little bit, or you just, okay, it's fine going on. But as soon as you're constantly crossing back and forth in front of my shot where clearly you can just take the extra 30 seconds to walk around me, that's when it gets more difficult because at least in those things, it's like, I gotta wash my hands. It's like, hey, they're gonna see that it's the wait staff is walking in. It's not my fault. You can't see
And that
the
affects
bride's
how you're
reaction.
remembered, even if the food is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of
What's-
those things where people don't think about that.
What's the next, so we've already seen what's happened 10 years from ago till now, technology-wise.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen in the next 5 years? I see people now, so you used to see, you go to a wedding, we're all sitting at this table and there's a camera, disposable in the middle, and they want you to take pictures.
I mean, that's come back. That's
That's
been
coming
retro.
back.
I like that. I think
I
that's
think that's-
fun,
so-
but it's not a substitute
It's-
for
So, but
a
is
photographer.
it gonna go to this?
It's-
Where everybody brings their iPhone and they say, hey, take video.
That's been a
So
thing.
that's already been a thing. There's a couple
Really?
different
10
apps
years
you can
ago.
get where either you use their app, record the footage, and it gets uploaded
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you do
that's
the
what I'm saying.
editing.
There's an app, you go on and
Or-
I'm in a wedding and it automatically uploads.
Or you can like they send you a couple GoPros or whatever, and people record it and you send it back to them. It's like if you want just a smaller thing and do that, if you trust the people who are holding those cameras, that's fine.
If you scrutinize your desk list enough, you can do
But
that.
it's the same thing as if you've got
But how about Ronnie doing that?
Yeah,
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 it's-
it's, well, there's great
Yeah.
video of him. He wasn't a professional.
Right.
He did it. He did it for us. I think we gave him $100, but it was so bad at the end that people were dancing so hard. We got married at Beaver Meadows. Shout out to Beaver Meadows. And the dance floor was vibrating so hard, the disc was skipping,
Sure.
yeah.
and you could see it, and the disc
Yep.
would skip.
A whole bunch
But then I got a story. So when my wife's roommate Chrissy, shout out to her again, when she got married, we before she got married to Steve, we were at a wedding in New York City, Long Island, and
whole
we
different
stayed at a
animal.
hotel. It was a great wedding. All the guys were staying. All the girls went and did their makeup and stuff. And they said, "Hey, all you guys have to do is show up at the church. Here's cameras. We want you to take some pictures of us." All the girls, all the roommates were in the wedding. Take some pictures of us so that we have some pictures of us in our dresses and stuff. Just be there on time. So we go, okay, we're going to go down and get breakfast. We were staying at a Holiday Inn Express or whatever it was. We're down to breakfast. and Steve finds out that they serve alcohol at 8 o'clock in the morning. So we're eating breakfast, drinking beer. Then we stopped at a liquor store and got some booze. And we were like taking pictures of us being stupid at the liquor store and da-da-da. And I remember walking into the wedding, and this had to be one of the reasons they were done, is I had my camera that Kim gave me to get pictures of him. And Steve looks at me with this look on his face and says, "Bud, I got to borrow your camera, man. All the pictures are gone." He took 36 pictures of us eating breakfast at the liquor store in the car, and he had no film
Oh my
to
God.
take a picture. So there's a responsibility you have to have if you're going to be the one in charge of taking pictures.
And that right there,
Alcohol at breakfast at 8 in the
I
morning.
would
is
you
just
just hit the
rather-
nail on the head with a responsible
Yeah.
part.
No, I was just gonna say, if I ever get married, I don't want to.
Pat, come on. So,
I don't want to have any responsibility, and I don't
Right.
want my
Yeah.
guests to
Right.
have any responsibility.
Right.
And also, it's the thing of like you don't want to have a negative emotion associated with someone who was supposed to capture something
Yeah.
That's
that's
true.
a friend.
I
And
didn't
I'm
even
like,
think
oh,
about
why were
it.
you off doing this? I asked you to do this other thing.
Yeah.
And you asked about like what's the future.
yeah.
Most often now, like right now, we're getting into the phase of the video industry for weddings is about where photo was 10 years ago, where stuff has come down in price, and like 10
hand
years
is up.
10 years ago, there was a whole flood of photographers who were, oh, I like taking a few photos. I like doing, like, you get people who just like do either senior photos or just they like doing artsy stuff. So they go to a park and take photos of,
I could do a wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, it starts off as a friend asks, oh, do you have a camera? Can you do my wedding? That's fine. You can take a few pictures, but if you don't know how to pose people or
Yeah.
how to wrangle people, and when you've got a 12-person bridal party, not including the bride and groom, and then you've got all the family and then it takes 2 hours to get family photos done. That's the kind of thing that you're paying for when you're hiring an amateur.
Well, you hit something good there. So if I want to have our family go out and take a family photo,
Yeah.
for a Christmas card or for whatever, we get all the family together, we take pictures. If the pictures come out shitty, we'll just do it next week.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't do that at a
don't
fucking
get
Yeah,
wedding.
too.
Yeah.
Can't do that at a
That's
wedding.
one time, man. If you
Right.
don't get that shot is not. It's gone.
Yeah.
And that
It doesn't exist anymore.
brings me to what I was going to say earlier about that is that the thing that shifted us from, you mentioned what the businesses were, was DJ by Design. We became Syracuse Weddings, is because it was no longer music centric. Music was part of the ingredients you used. It was, and it's an important ingredient, but it's not everything. And in order for me to be able to make this effective and rule out all the anomalies that can go wrong on the sound end and help him rule out the things that can go wrong on the video end, I've got to be involved a lot sooner than before somebody starts looking for a DJ. So that's when I started going into planning. Because once I am, as a planner, now I have control. And the problem with that is that people like, you're a control freak. Yes, but not the way people think. I don't need to be in control. I just need to know that everything's under control. And everything at a wedding, 100% of everything that's at an invested wedding, take that to mean whatever you want it to mean. At an invested wedding, regardless of the number, everything that happens there should be controlled. Nothing should ever feel controlled. And so that's the difference between hiring a professional grade who's well aware of all the things that can go south real quick and sidestepping all those potholes and educating you on what those are so that you don't inadvertently bring people into it.
Yeah.
And a person who doesn't, that the one you
Yeah.
just mentioned about, a person, oh, I could take some pictures. It's not that they don't do great pictures. They're completely unaware of the circumference of things
Yeah.
going on around them taking the picture.
I think
That's why
that's
I
so
like what you
interesting.
said.
Well, I think that's kind of what, in any profession,
Yes.
as people get more professional, it's not necessarily the experience that they bring, but their ability to recognize what will go wrong.
Yes.
And
That's
fix it
what makes a
beforehand.
professional to,
Absolutely.
You
to
said you want to have the less stress possible. I'm going to shout out to Dave Sturpey at Dibbles. The thing I liked and Jenna liked out there, Dave's been a friend of mine forever. I know you guys do weddings at Dibbles and
On
have some
occasion,
good
yep.
positives and negatives maybe.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
everywhere.
'Cause the
But
owner
what I
can be
liked
gr-
about
yeah.
what Dave did and what Jenna liked and Zach liked and Chrissy and Jeff liked was everything's there.
Yep.
You don't have to go out and find a cake.
Yep.
You're going to use our cake. You don't have to go out and find a DJ. You're going to
That's-
use our DJ.
that's good
You
and
don't
bad.
have to find
Yeah.
our flowers.
Yeah.
And here's what's going to happen. Here's the day you're going to do the tastings. You're going to taste the cake. You're going to pick. You're going to do the flowers. Everything is done there. You don't have to. So there's no stress on Jenna for the next year or Chrissy of what to do. If you,
So
I
what-
don't know if
what-
I would like that.
And most
I feel like
brides
that.
don't.
Yeah.
I feel like that's great for them, and I get it. But I would be.
why wouldn't you want to?
Because
You're
I-
relinquishing control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a control
But there's
freak.
you have total control over the
But
cake.
no, but
But who's the bakery?
Yeah,
The bakery's his bakery.
Yeah.
Right.
What if I wanted a different bakery?
yeah,
And
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
that-
problem.
Why
Right.
would you
Yeah.
want a different bakery?
Because I'm a control freak.
Yeah,
No,
but-
or what if it's like a specialty cake that you've been dreaming of for the last
then you
10
get
years?
the baker can make it.
No,
So-
that's
so-
not. It's
right.
not always a thing.
No?
It's because sometimes it's
Man,
like
how a wedding
I
is
think
supposed
it's-
to be that you just get married. You
So-
don't need a fucking
So,
special cake.
I-
Dave is the full evolution of what we talked about in the beginning of the Italian restaurant / fire hall wedding.
Yeah.
He is the top end of that type of wedding.
Yeah.
Where people said, I just want to get married, that's where you go. But the vast majority of people who spend more than $10,000 to $15,000 in a wedding, which by the way, do you know what the average is in Central New York?
I bet it's
35,000.
35,000.
Yeah, we found that out.
Based on how many people?
100 people.
100 people.
Yeah.
All
I was
right?
going to say 150.
That's
but
average.
That's irresponsible.
That's not the top.
I don't want to fucking do that.
No,
I'm
neither.
sorry. I do.
I'm not.
In a like bougie dream sense,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that I would want to do for a wedding for a day that I think would be cool. But I can't spend 40 grand on a wedding.
Ready for this? Ready for this? Us either. No.
Well,
So this is the
that's-
thing that people don't get is that
It's one day. That's a down
It's
payment
irresponsible.
on a house.
But
I'm
it's
going
also-
to 6 weddings between today and the end of next year. I have 6 weddings to go to, and they're going to be. I mean, Zach and Jen is one of them, but they're 40. I mean, my niece is getting married. My nephew's getting married in Nashville. There's more like these destination type weddings,
Yep,
and
yep.
it's going to cost them 60, 70 grand to get married. It's irresponsible. I love the guys, but it's one
there's-
day.
There's
But
both,
if
there's
that's-
both
but
ends
it
of it.
also depends on.
If your day's ruined because you didn't get the fucking strawberry filling you wanted in your cake,
And that's
then
not
fuck
what
you.
we
You
But a lot of
should
times-
get married.
no,
If you're spending that much money, you should be able to get the cake that you want.
Yeah.
Right. That's
It
a
also
big-
depends
It's a
on
whole-
It's
financial.
all born
thing.
out
Yeah.
of unreasonable expectations on all sides.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, is that going back to the 80s, the expectations were family reunion, some
Yeah,
dancing,
yeah.
have fun, we do it, and everything's the same. And an average wedding back then, $5,000 was an expensive wedding.
I got married
back
for
then.
$3,500.
Right, exactly. So again, the reason why
And
it's
it
gone
lasted 35 years, so it was
the reason why it's
$100
gone
a
up
year.
is why. It has nothing to do with the reason why the cost skyrocketed is because the expectations skyrocketed. And the
Yeah.
expectations aren't even because of what people want. The vast majority of couples, you tell me if I'm wrong,
30 cents a
don't
day.
know what they want. They don't
Yeah.
know what they want.
Yeah.
They just know they saw this, they like this, then they find the price tag and they're like, oh. But then they get neck deep into the plan and they're like, well, I kind of want that. And that happens
before you
across
know it, the $40,000 wedding is a $65,000
and the only
wedding.
reason that happens, and coming back full circle, is that because they didn't hire a planner.
Yeah.
They free-willed it, and they just kept snowballing. Most people start off getting sales at Hobby Lobby for centerpieces before they even have a venue. Oh, it's on sale. I'll get that for when I'm going to get married. I see it all the time. And so is that.
My brother is getting married, and they were.
For you?
Yeah. I don't care. Good. They've been together forever. Go do it. But I think they went from what I heard is that they went to go see a bunch of different venues, and he was like toying with the fact, I think that he was like, I feel like we can do this for much cheaper.
Yep.
And I literally like said to my mom, I was like, you need to tell him that is not
what it is.
accurate.
Right.
I'm like,
No.
you cannot, like you.
No. Actually, it is. He can, and you don't want it.
Well,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
In Rochester at this beautiful hall. It's gorgeous. It's
What's it called?
I don't know. It's I can look it up if you want,
Heritage
but
Hotel?
it's but
It's been an hour.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been-
So ask your question, I'll ask my
You,
nicknames.
well,
You ever had a nickname that you liked or didn't like when you were a kid, when you got older?
Oh, that's shifting gears quick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Sorry.
No, you're okay.
This is one of the 3 questions I was getting prepared for.
I know you right now.
I was with him yesterday. And I told him I'm not going to tell him.
that I was called I didn't like. They called me Bug. I had a ladybug roller that they put me in, and then that was it. It was just
ladybug
Bug.
roller?
Yeah, like like the little like the 5 wheels. You put the baby in it, and
Yeah.
it's one of those. And it was a
Oh my
ladybug.
gosh, so when you were that age,
I was that age, they called me Bug, and I was so happy when
how long did it last?
early teens.
Oh my God.
In the
From
family?
From a baby to early
Yep,
teens.
I was the only child, so naturally
yeah.
people that's their habit. For sure.
Anything now?
So now, because of the art show, everybody calls me Scribe, and that's a whole other thing.
That's cool.
I've been doing calligraphy since I was really young, and that segued
Scribe's
into
a
the
name
wedding
you
business.
like, probably.
I don't care. People can call me what they want to call me. I'm not that.
Yeah.
yeah.
What's yours?
I think I didn't mind it. Probably Sasquatch or Sass for short.
Because you were a big kid when you were
Yeah,
young?
not even. I worked at McDonald's. Everyone's like, there's Bumble,
Tall.
and there's a few different people that would like. So, oh, you're on the crew now. Let's give you a nickname, and so
Yeah,
it was
that's-
like,
that's-
and so it was
you're
like going
accepted,
around,
though.
and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, what about? And they're like throwing
you-
names
you
out, and
wouldn't
it's like
trust somebody who didn't have a
Sasquatch.
nickname
Yes,
then,
it's like,
yeah.
sure. So it was
Yeah.
like either Sasquatch or Squatch or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's your other question?
What's your favorite movie?
I don't think I can narrow it down that tight. Fun movie, memorable movie, life changing.
You got it. It's Friday
gotta
night,
pick one?
nothing to do. You got it's
Oh,
the
that's
last
different.
movie you're gonna watch.
Yeah.
You got to
Oh,
watch
that's
a movie.
different. Yeah, either. Man, that's tough.
the movie that you would watch?
This is supposed to make the question easier. I think it's making it harder.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna give it to you straight. Favorite fun movie, Twister. Favorite.
Twister?
Yeah, because it's just one of
Never
those
seen
stupid
it.
movies. Oh, it's just
Oh,
it's a
it's
stupid fun
great,
movie.
yeah.
But I tend to I worked at a video store when I was a kid for 4 years, so I actually liked rom-coms in the 90s.
Yeah, sure.
As good as it gets.
Oh, well, with Jack Nicholson. That's a
Yep,
great movie.
it's
That's
a great
good one.
movie.
That's good. That's good. What favorite
What's
movie?
yours?
Probably Yes Man with Jim Carrey.
Oh my God, that
yeah.
tells about your sense of humor.
Big time.
Well, it's not even just as in the humor. When I was like growing up, it changed how I felt about life and everything. Because growing up, Carl attests, it's like everything was like, I guess, or I don't want to,
I got him when I was
but
younger.
I guess
Didn't
sure.
want to say no to people. That's part of the wedding
and
business
it's like, I
too.
didn't want to say no, but I didn't want to do it, so I begrudgingly do whatever.
So a half-assed
and then at a
yes.
certain point later on, it was like, you know what, I'm gonna say yes to more things, and then just try and go into it with no expectation and not be pessimistic about it. And things started working out, and it's like now I know when to say no to certain things because I know
big.
it's not a good idea. And then the things that I don't really want to, I'm just like, okay, if I feel that I'm going to be a drag on other people, then I might say no. But if I think I can fake it enough where no one will notice, sure, if they will enjoy my company, then I'll be there.
Nice.
Cool. Say yes
Oh.
to things that normally wouldn't.
Yep.
Glass half full. You got to be a glass half full and try stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Or say
actually,
no
part of that I
when
learned
you
on
Say,
him.
better yet, say no when you can't do it.
Yeah, me,
Yeah.
it's no, the glass is half full, but I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Michelle.
Okay, so my last question. Well, thank you guys both
Yes,
for
thank
coming
you.
on
This
here.
was
We
very-
really,
this was very
yeah,
good.
it was. I feel like we could have talked for like
another
6
hour.
more
Everybody
hours.
says.
Yeah. But so, if people were to take away one thing about you from this little chat, what would you want it to be?
first.
He's prepared because he's heard 17 of them.
I know
Yeah.
he hears me ask it everyone.
No, I think usually it's I'll try to be helpful when I can, and that's my biggest thing is trying to a lot of deep-seated stuff in my past of like, oh, I just want to be helpful. I want people to see me as being reliable, but I've learned since then that if you say yes to everything and you're trying to be helpful to everyone, if you can't follow through on that, that's not a good thing. You become unreliable. So now it's being more picky and choosy. I strive to be the person that's like, okay, if I need help, I can go to Ryan.
Well, that's cool. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
first
I
time
like
he's answered
that.
that.
Yeah.
You
Oh, I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point in my life where I'm actually shifting gears the other way. I've been that person most of my life in my career, and I mentioned in the beginning, I said I'm done doing money work. I want to do happy work. I've never made as less money as I do right now, not even as a job. I have this art show on the internet for 5 days a week. I don't charge for it. I give everything away for free. It makes money. I thoroughly love it, even more than what I loved in my wedding career. But I made a living out of saying yes to too many people, and I didn't realize the anxiety that gave me. It didn't become apparent until COVID. And then coming out of COVID, I just couldn't go back to it. It's just that simple because before COVID, there was a lot easier to control things. And now so many moving parts, so many different attitudes from coming out of that from people as guests, when guests show up a certain way, and I can't condition them to actually have the time that the people are paying me for to give them. Yeah, I have no room here anymore. So I'm coming into this the other way now, and now my default is, yeah, no. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because I really can't. And I'm starting to listen to myself and my body and my wife and my family for the first time in
I
25
like that you
years.
say
That's
you're
awesome.
doing,
That's awesome.
what'd you say, pay work, but fun.
I'm done doing money work. I want to do happy work.
Happy work. I
Happy
like
work.
that, doing happy work. You
and
gotta be happy in
you
what
gotta
you're
be-
doing.
and
Maybe
I-
not when you're 20
Right.
and you gotta do the grind, but when you're 30
And
you
that's
own a
the
business,
thing.
you
I
gotta
was
like
lucky
it.
enough to love it and make a lot of money in the wedding business. But like I said, I didn't want to be an employer. I wasn't ready for the success. We found
Yeah.
it without looking for it. And we both kind of evolved and didn't even realize we were doing that
Yeah.
when we were doing it.
Because even when I was first working with Carl, it was like I enjoyed doing it so much. I was like practically living like a college life. Like I didn't have a car at the time because I couldn't afford insurance, but working for Carl on the weekends helped me in the position that I was in, to have my week free. So I could either try and pick up a couple little jobs here or there if I had a friend who needed help with construction or doing something, I could help out. But I lived within my means at the time, and it took quite a while for like, okay, I'm starting to make more money. Now I can actually go get a car and, start going out and getting more work, but still doing the things that I love, because I'd rather live within my means and be happy with less than working so hard the entire week and then not having much to show for it.
Well, some people think, who's happier, the guy that makes 100,000 or the guy that makes 50,000? How much do they spend?
and
The
that's
guy
the
making 100
question.
grand, does he spend 90 grand to live? Or the guy making 50 grand, does he spend 20
and
grand to
I-
live?
and
And
I
who's
think
doing
the-
what they'd like to be happy?
The question itself, I think, is flawed because you're tethering your happiness to how much
Yeah,
money
I
you're
know
making or
people
not
that it's
making.
gotta be about the money. It's
And-
not
and
about-
that's most
I'm
people.
happy, I do what I do because I wanna help.
Right.
People.
Yeah.
And you hope that you get paid along the way to be able to eat dinner at Brasserie or.
And the takeaway when you mentioned what you could tell people about things is that, like, in the context of like what could I tell my clients, what could I instill in them, was you have to ask yourself, and this applies to whether you're going to business, whether you're going into a marriage or in the wedding business,
gonna be
everything.
a while.
It's what are you trying to get out of this experience?
Right.
If you ask yourself that question before you get started, you are going to spend a lot
Yeah.
less money. You're going to get exactly what you want. If you don't know what you want, you're going to ask those questions before you've already spent the money. You have to ask yourself the honest question, and most people don't stop. Most people are just on autopilot, including the business owners.
You made
Yeah.
a good point. If what you guys do and what you do.
Yeah.
If you're doing what you do for the money, dude, wrong fucking
Right,
business.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
You're not gonna be successful. If you're
Nope.
doing this just for the money, you're not gonna be
there's no money.
successful.
What
Because there's no money.
You can hang it up right now.
Well, that's the tough thing, is that like I enjoy doing a lot of different things when it comes to video production. Weddings is, unless you're in New York City or you're in Nashville, or you're in Austin, Texas, or you're
Orlando.
in LA, or
West.
like some of the
Yeah,
main
yeah.
locations. Like no one's making movies on a constant basis out here or anything. Weddings there's so many people in the area that even if say you could go out there and be a movie director and film a movie, you don't know what a wedding is going to be, but that's where people come from. Is they get out of film school, they have some gear, and they're like, "Oh, sure, let's go do weddings, I guess." And it's like they're just doing it because that's where the money is. And it's like we
you
took
gotta
it. We took a
like
different
doing it,
approach.
man. You
Yeah,
can't-
we
you
took a
can't
different
sit there
approach, and
But
that's
can
that's how you
find the
do it
joy in
on
that, too.
end.
That's what happened to us.
Yeah.
We didn't
Yeah.
know. We didn't know. And then we found it. And then when we found it, we're like, okay, what do we do with this now?
Yeah.
Now that we found love, what are we going to do with it? And it's
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I get paid to go to 40 parties a year,
Right.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
have fun and get to know people, and then more often than not, we'll occasionally see him again. Of like, I have one couple in Texas who flew us out there during COVID to go have their wedding. Then we saw him again the next year, and then we flew back last year to do their friend's wedding. And it's like we stayed at their house.
Yep.
They're
Oh,
like
that's
we
pretty cool.
met
And at
them, and
this
they're
level,
like,
that's
oh,
what
let's
happens.
go do
no
these things.
dollar figure.
No.
No, it's just
Yeah.
they're a great couple, and
Yeah.
we enjoy hanging out with them. It's like that's what I do weddings for, is to
Cool, good place to.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you,
this
guys.
was
That was
great.
great. That
This
was
was
awesome. Thanks
for
so
having me.
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All
Now,
right.
Ryan, turn it off or I'll set Ryan, okay?